Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts, mainly LTCN, BCHG, and HZEN, and now also ETCG. Let's get it. So before we get into the actual charts and talk about what's possible and what's going on, let's go over to the portfolios real quick. So as you guys can see, we are in a new position. We're in ETCG. We'll actually go over to the order page here. You guys can see that we added $800 in BCHG at $4 a share, which turns out to be a pretty good move because, as you guys can see on BCHG, it has more than doubled since we did that. So I would say that was a pretty good move on our part. Good timing, very good timing because we almost missed it. So plus 200 shares on that as of the first, and then we added plus 43 shares as of yesterday. So roughly about $800 in that position. We have a very specific reason for adding ETCG and not ETH not ETH. Okay. So the total positions that we have regarding basically among the Bitcoin oscillators is we have LTCN, BCHG, which are, well, I should say Bitcoin and Ether oscillators. So LTCN, BCHG, and ETCG, which are oscillators to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Then we have the actual Bitcoin and actual Ethereum. Okay. So we have some of the actual underlying token. And then we also have Litecoin. So we do have some Litecoin. And trying to think of what else. We also have Dash, which is an oscillator. We do not have any Bitcoin Cash. We do not have any Zcash. We do not have any Bitcoin Gold or Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. So those are kind of all the oscillators that we currently own. But as you guys can see, we added to it. We are pretty heavily in the money right now. So BCHG plus 115%, plus 50% on LTCN, which is still pretty good. But in my opinion, I think LTCN may be about ready to seriously pop here soon. It's kind of been lagging behind some of these others. Even HZEN and BCHG has moved ahead of it. What that's telling me is that LTCN is still in the process of getting ready to set up its big move, or the start of its big move. So we've added some ETCG. We may add some more next week. The Bitcoin miners are still really cheap in comparison to this. We may add some to that. We'll just have to wait and see. So what are the reasons why we added ETCG and not any other crypto trust in Grayscale? Well, again, it refers back to ETH Classic, the underlying being an oscillator to Ethereum. Okay. So when Ethereum goes up, ETH Classic will go up. When ETH goes up, ETCHG is going to go up. So there's three reasons for this. Number one, because of some recent past upgrades that has happened with Ethereum has gone deflationary, which means that even though it's hypothetically they could print infinite amount of tokens, the amount of tokens that are being burned out of supply exceeds the amount of tokens that are created, which is very bullish for the price of Ethereum. That's number one. Number two, Ethereum, generally speaking, runs up shortly after Bitcoin. Okay. So Bitcoin goes up first, then Ethereum moonshots, and then the altcoins. That's generally how it works. Well, ETH Classic has not really moved up that much in comparison to Ethereum. I'm actually going to show you that on the charts here. So that way you guys can see before we get into the actual trust. So you guys can see Ethereum here is at 39.13 currently, which is basically roughly about 18% from the all-time highs. So it is not at all-time highs like Bitcoin, so it's still relatively cheap. But if we compare that to ETH Classic, we go over here to ETH Classic, you guys can see it had a massive blow-off peak here, $174. In terms of ETH Classic, we are 77% down compared to Ether's 18% down. So you guys can see why we bought into ETH Classic, not Ethereum, even though we hold some actual Ethereum. So the third reason why we bought into ECHG is because there have been rumors. We don't know if this is actually in the works yet or not. We don't think it's actually in the works, but we might have to look into it here shortly. But there are rumors that there's a possibility that an Ethereum spot ETF might be approved by the SEC in May of this year. That's 2 months away. If that happens, that means institutions are going to get into Ethereum, and you guys are going to see Ethereum go to all-time highs. Not that it's really all that far away from there right now, but Ethereum will probably go to all-time highs and much, much higher than it otherwise would have without the big institutions involved like BlackRock and Fidelity. If they get involved in Ethereum, we want to be in ETH Classic because it has the most upside. It has 60% more upside to get to the all-time highs than Ethereum does. So that's the third reason why we went into this specific position specifically. So this is what's going on with the portfolio. So now let's get into the actual content of the charts and what's going on with the charts. So LTCN has moved up pretty substantially in 1 week. We did see a breakout of both the triangle pattern and also the ascending triangle here. As you can see way down here, we did obviously, or down here and also down at this zone right here, you kind of did see that we broke out. So to get from the current price, which I don't think it's going to pull back, I really don't think LTCN is going to pull back at this point. You'd be looking at roughly about 17% to 34% to get up to the next zone. Again, the target for the ascending triangle is at the top of this resistance. It's roughly about 27 bucks. Why do I say that I don't think it's going to pull back yet? Because you have a low here, then you have a high, a higher low, and a higher high. That's a very bullish pattern. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it just keeps going up in waves. If it is going to pull back, it's probably going to pull back somewhere around this area at that $27 price target. Main reason being is because you have heavy support here that turned resistance, or support that eventually turned resistance, and we've been under that for a while. So until it breaks out of that, I would say that's probably the strongest resistance level. And then the next resistance, if we get above and beyond that, is way up here, as you guys can see. So roughly about $98 to $134. So that's a massive move up. And I'm actually going to do something a little bit different here. So let's zoom out a little bit. And try to see if I can figure this out here. So just from that swing move over here, as you guys can see to the low, the maximum target on the Fibonacci's as of that move would be $100. But if we were to go ahead and this is going to seem quite ridiculous, but this is the only way, one of the only ways to measure this during basically during price discovery is with Fibonacci's. There is other ways to measure this, but this is crypto we're talking about. So to get back to the one break-even level, that would be the all-time highs at $510. The next target above that would be $833. That's the 1.618. Do I think 830 is possible with the finance giants being in the space now? Yes. Yes, I do. So 2.618 would be all the way up here at 1300. And then you have 1850 and 2100. All of those are possible. I would say if we get anywhere between 510 to about 830, we personally are going to be taking profit on this. We're not going to wait to see if it goes up to $2,500 because, guys, what goes up can come down. And when crypto comes down, it's really, really bad and really quick. So, these could go minus 90% from all-time highs. So HZEN looking very bullish. We had a massive bullish close here. So next resistance level is going to be 1130 to about 1230. This support, which is obviously now support, is going to be $7 to $8 unless we have a fake out and it dumps back down below. But we need to see a retest and then a bounce. That's kind of what we're looking for here. So let's actually change this to let's change this to support. So we'll do the measured move here. If you manage to get in somewhere around these zones, or the buy zone, I should say, 50% to about 64%. If you got in right now, which is, of course, your right to do so, 33% to 45%, that's still a pretty good trade. So BCHG, let's take a look at this one. This was another massive mover. We actually got to move some of these resistance zones to support zones, but we'll do this after we close out this video because it takes up time. So this new support zone would be between 680 to $7.50, and the next resistance level is between $10 to $12.65. As you guys can see here, this massive red bar, which is known as a control bar, basically expecting very heavy resistance here. If it can get above that, then obviously the bulls are very much full in control at that point. If you don't know what a control bar is in trading, go look it up. I'm not going to explain it here. So we'll go ahead and do the measured move. Assume that you wanted to wait for the pullback. You'd be looking at anywhere from 42 to 73, 74%, somewhere in there. But if you did not wait for the pullback, you could get as much as 17 to about 46%. Of course, your drawdown could be not terrible, about 20%. That's bad for stocks, but that's nothing for crypto. So GXLM did get rejected at resistance here, as you guys can see, but this is a very bullish candle, I would say. The body is much larger than the wick, which is very bullish. So if you just decided to get in now, which is completely up to you, you'd be taking a look at 6% to as much as 18%. I would say BCHG and HZEN is probably a better play. That's just my opinion. So ETH, this thing did not pull back for a cup and handle pattern, although it's possible it still could. At this point, it's not looking very likely. Again, these are patterns. They are not confirmed until they actually play out, and we have not seen this play out, so it might have been canceled. But anyways, this is now support down here, as you guys can see, between $25 and roughly about $29. Your resistance is going to be $40 to about $47. So if you wanted to wait for the pullback, which is up to you, this is obviously basically at all-time highs. Ethereum is pretty much at all-time highs, so I'm expecting this thing to move up pretty quick, about 51% to 77%. But if you waited for a pullback, obviously your profit would be much, or hold on a sec. Whoops. So my bad. Getting ahead of myself here. So from the point it's at now, about 18 to 37%. Obviously, this can go much higher because, as you guys know, with Ethereum, it always makes new higher peaks in every forward-looking cycle. So ETH Classic, this one has not moved above resistance yet, so I'd say that this is still support 13 to 1580, resistance 1750 to 2030. Do the measured move on that. From the support zone, potentially as much as 20 to 37%. From the current price, which is basically right at resistance, you're looking at like maybe a couple percentage points to about 15%. And we're actually going to go over the positions that we personally hold here shortly. So we're going to do it again, but for a different reason. So Zcash, or the Zcash Grayscale Trust, is a very bullish confirmation candle right here. So I'd say this is now support at $4.50 to about $5. And you have resistance between $7.30 to about $8 per share. So if we do the measured move from the zone, you'd be looking at potentially as much as 50 to 64%. If you wanted to just get in now, maybe 7 to 17%, and then later on as much as 108 to about 151%. GSOL, well, there's not really much to look at here. I mean, I think this thing's pretty much already ran. If you guys want to get in at these prices way up here, that's entirely up to you. I'm not going to risk it. We're not getting in when this thing is $400 above the EMAs. So your potential upside, if that's what you wanted, is about 7%. Of course, it could go even higher, but understand the drop is massive here. GSOL could theoretically just keep going up. It could go to $2,000 a share, but we're just not going to buy when it's that overextended. There's cheaper opportunities in the markets that have more upside and less risk, in my opinion. You guys got to remember something about investing and trading. It's not just about making money. It's also about managing risk, okay? If you don't manage your risk properly in crypto, it could potentially be really bad. I mean, there are some people that bought at the top that were down 90, 95% on their positions. So Mana, the move to the upside to the all-time high is 13%. But of course, again, the drop is massive. It's about 75% to get back to the EMAs. I'd say roughly around 60% to get back to that support zone. GBAT is a little less overextended, but it is starting to seriously move up. I would rather buy the actual BAT token than this, in my opinion, because there's less risk involved. So 34% move to the upside just to get back to the highs. But then again, the drop is absolutely huge, could be as much as 68%. G-Link, here's another one that's just really ripped to the moon. And for those of you guys that have held any of these, GBAT, G-Link, PhilG, or GLIV, congratulations to you. You've made a lot of money. G-Link, I would not even touch this one. Me personally, any of these bottom four, so you're looking at potentially negative 73%. And do remember, the more aggressively these goes up, the more aggressively most likely they're going to come down. So keep that in mind. This would be a massive 85% drop to get to the EMAs and almost 90% to get back to that support zone. So a lot of risk there. GLIV, this is one that didn't really move up massively. As you guys can see, it absolutely overshot the bull flag here. The bull flag was not even half of this move, so a really huge move. So to get in now, which in my opinion is risky to the all-time highs, would be 26%. I think the Bitcoin miners are much cheaper. They barely even moved. That's just my opinion, of course. And even something like ETH Classic, the Grayscale Trust is much cheaper, so 77% on this move. So we went over the potential targets with the Fibonacci on LTCN. Let's go ahead and do that on HZEN as well. So this is going to be a macro move measurement here, okay? So we're going to show you guys what this thing could potentially actually do. And we back tested this in our futures trading. And the way that we're measuring these Fibonacci's does actually work. Whether the price plays out that way or not remains to be seen. So HZEN, to get back to the break-even level, is at the highs at $31, the 1.618. $50, I would say, is definitely possible. 2.618, $78 or $80, somewhere in there. 3.618, 109. And the full-on move would be $126 per share, which is a massive return. So we're going to do the same thing, but again for BCHG. This basically, pretty much what this is this is a tool that could be used for price discovery to figure out what the next potential targets are when it actually goes into price discovery. So obviously the highs here would be at the one level, $61, 1.618, 96, 2.618, 156, 3.618, 220, and then we'll get into any potential higher levels, assuming we get there. So last one is going to be ETH or ETCG. So let's get the Fibonacci here. Go from the high to basically from the swing high to the swing low in the bull market and bear market. The high obviously was $96. Next target could be as much as $155, $250, $340, and almost $400. So if it does go to $400, that'd be awesome. But I'm kind of expecting maybe like a top somewhere between $100 to $150. It's better, not financial advice, but for us personally, we would rather take profits a little bit early than risk getting dumped on by 80%, because 80% of 100% leaves you with 20%, but taking profit at 100% leaves you with 100% plus. So let's actually do a measurement on a token that we also own. As you guys can see, it just pushed into price discovery. So this is going to be a little bit weird, but we're going to do it this way. You guys will understand why. So we're going to take it from the current peak to the swing low. As you guys can see, it lines up perfectly with the one. This could also be used for trading for pullbacks and things like that. So we'll get into that in a later video, but the potential targets on render could be anywhere from 18 to 28 to 39 to 45. I would say all of that's possible. The market cap for render is not that big. I think it's like 5 billion or something like that. So if this thing did a 4x and went to 20 billion, that's more than reasonable, I would say. So anyways, this is the content on LTCN BCHG and HZEN. Keep in mind, y'all, that as of right now, Bitcoin is not at all-time highs, but it's broken it twice in the last week. We could be any day now, maybe within the next couple of weeks, getting ready to smash all the way up to, I'd say 75, 80, 90, 100K. So keep that in mind. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see y'all later. Peace.